It's Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and this is an updated infographic and an updated video on white label aligner design. So I've been meaning to do this for a long time, so apologies that some of my old content out there is a little bit outdated, but let's go over first of all, what is white label aligners? What are them? And it's always surprising how few doctors and patients actually know what it is. So basically, in a nutshell, aligners have been around since the 1940s. They were just slightly in a different format. They were more in a rubberized format. We called them positioners, right? There are positioners that are sold many different orthodontic companies, labs. Nothing special about it at this point. They're not patented anymore. Now, some people have some blings on it that are patented, but for the most part, it's a generic thing. So you can still make positioners. Price point's around $200. I use them all the time. They're great. Anyways, fast forward to 1997, Align Technology tweaked the prescription and the process of making positioners, and they started calling them aligners. Instead of a one-step process with a rubberized material, it moved to a multi-step proprietary process that involved suck-down material that we used for many decades before that to make retainers and to make bleaching trays and stuff like that. And we were even doing this, like I can tell you, back in dental school before Align Technology came around. We knew that if we wanted to move a tooth, we would basically take a mold, we would get a little lab saw, we'd saw out the teeth, we'd put them a little bit movement, and we'd re-wax it up, and we'd make another suck down, and we made an aligner. And this was before Invisalign was even invented. We were already doing this. It was just a mechanical process, right? Instead of a 3D process with software. So anyways, fast forward another generation, 2 decades, and their initial round of patents is gone. So now other companies can come in and do the basic stuff. No, the other companies do not have all those bells and whistles in terms of some of the shapes of the attachments and stuff like that, but the basic process of moving teeth is still there with computerized software and attachments and precision cuts and bite ramps and many of the things you're probably already doing with Invisalign or ClearCorrect. You can still get at a much lower price point now. No bells and whistles, no bling, no branding, no fancy case, no fancy packaging, no fancy stickers, nothing like that. It's just plain aligners. So for some patients, this is not ideal. Some patients are gonna want branded. They're gonna ask for something by name. They're gonna go to somebody to get that product by name, and they're willing to pay a premium price for the experience. For some patients, that's a turnoff. They know that these companies spend a lot of money on marketing. They know that they're quite overpriced. They know that they are paying for a huge marketing cost, and they know they can get things for cheaper because they see some of those DT, you know what I'm talking about, companies that are out there that are able to bring pretty decent, easy alignment for less than $2,000 direct to patients. So they know that the price point is gotta be way cheaper than what these orthodontists are charging. Well, the reason orthodontists are charging so much is because orthodontists themselves are getting charged a lot, about 30-40% of the lab fee up front. So anyways, hence that's where white label comes in. White label is not a brand. It's a brand that you do yourself, okay? And the good news is that you do not have to actually own any technology outside probably an intraoral scanner to make this happen. It would be better if you had an intraoral scanner. You can do it with impressions, but you will pay more. So these price points that you're gonna see here are not relevant if you do not have an intraoral scanner. They will accept any FDA approved open scanner. So you're not being punished if you have a Medit, you're not being punished if you have a Trios 3 shape, you're not being punished if you have any of those. You can use any FDA approved intraoral scanner that's open. So in any case, this opens up the whole wonderful world for aligners for people who chose to have a non-aligned technology, iTero scanner, which many general dentists prefer. They actually don't quite care for the fact that they have to pay monthly fees and all that kind of stuff. And it's maybe not exactly what they're looking for in their practice unless they're doing a ton of ortho. So they've chosen maybe a different scanner for their office. So now you can do really great aligners, and it doesn't have to be ClearCorrect. Matter of fact, this is cheaper than ClearCorrect, a lot cheaper than ClearCorrect. The only thing you have to keep in mind when you're doing pure white label, and there are many other companies out there that I would call hybrid white label. That means you can get in on the white label experience saving money, but you can still have that safety net of revisions, refinements. If you cannot, and I have a really good, if you go to my website, StraightSmileSolutions.com, at the very top, at least right now, Q4 2020, there's a banner at the top that I created a quiz saying, are you ready for white label? And I would strongly recommend that you take that quiz because it'll give you a score and let you know if you're a good candidate to start doing white label in your office. I have helped many doctors try new aligner systems, including white label, over the past 4 or 5 years. And some doctors succeed and some don't. So I kind of put together some of the parameters that I've seen for doctors that are going to be successful to see if your office is ready. So I strongly recommend you go to my website, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and take that quiz to see if you're ready before you proceed. Anyway, so let's talk about white label. So again, you don't have to have technology, but I do recommend you have some type of scanner. That is definitely one of the qualifications. But if you don't have a scanner, you can still do it, but you're going to pay more. Okay. So there are 4 different. White label is not one. So when you use Invisalign or ClearCorrect or one of these companies, you're paying for convenience. You're paying for an easy to use platform where everything's housed. You're paying for an all-in-one service where the design, the manufacturing, the shipping, customer service, everything is all in one place. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for convenience. You can still get a very similar, if not even superior product if you're willing to manage it on your own. So that's what I said. You need to be organized. There are 4 different design services that I collaborate with. I can tell you I have some preferences, but I'm not going to put this in this video. If you want to know my preferences, you can contact me directly at StraightSmileSolutions.com. Also, these price points I think are only if I refer you. You may not get these price points if you go directly, and you may not get as good of service. So I suggest that you contact me directly at StraightSmileSolutions.com or info@StraightSmileSolutions.com. You can send me a website message to say, hey, I want to get introduced to some white label design companies, and I will be glad to send you. So these design companies, these are US-based ones. I only work with US-based design companies at this moment just because I feel like I know them, I know who they are. I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of cases from each of these companies, and I feel very comfortable with them. So I can wholeheartedly recommend. You can pick which one works for you. So basically, I just updated some of the numbers on here. So if you are one of these companies and you see your numbers are incorrect, you're welcome to contact me and I will update it again. So basically the way it's going to work is that you're going to contact first one of these design companies and you're going to set up your platform to go ahead for billing. And from there, then you're going to need to pick a manufacturing partner. So the manufacturing partner is separate from the design company. So you're going to have a bunch of moving parts here. So you could pick, say, Full Contour and then their list of manufacturing partners. Full Contour will have their own list of manufacturing partners, and it might be 10, it might be 20, it might be 30, and they will all have different prices. They'll all use different type of thermoplastic material. They'll have different trim lines. Some will do precision cuts, some won't. So it's good to ask, right? Some of these companies do not do molar movements. Some do not do bite jumps. Some do not do bite ramps. So you need to ask, depending on, if you're only doing anterior movements anyways, then it probably doesn't matter. But if you're doing comprehensive cases, then you need to pick one that does comprehensive cases. So all kinds of things to think about. So again, take you through the process and you need to pick your design company, okay? So I would recommend meeting with several of them, picking which one you like, ask a lot of questions. And then from there, ask for their list of manufacturing partners, unless you're going to be doing this in-house. Now, if you do it in-house, that's up to you to figure out the regulatory. This is not Global's or IROC's or Full Contours or Exceed's job to figure out the regulatory. If you are making this in-house, you need to cover or CYA for regulatory, okay? If you are doing the whole process out and you're referring to one of their vetted manufacturing partners, the manufacturing partner already has the regulatory covered. So of course, that's why you're paying $20 per aligner. It used to be $15. Now this is the cheapest price is $20. And that's with some of my connections. So some are gonna be more than 20, 25, 30, okay? So, but you can definitely get a decent solid product for $20. So you need to let, say, Full Contour know that you're using XYZ lab. They'll give you a list. And then the way it's gonna work is you're gonna submit the case through their portal. You're going to submit the photos, the x-rays, fill out a prescription. You have to know, they're not going to tell you how to do it. You need to say how you want to do it. I want IPR, I don't want IPR. I want expansion, I don't want expansion. but they will give you a very predictable setup. I find these setups with these companies 10 times more predictable than any setup that I get initially with, I'm going to say it flat out, with Align Technology or ClearCorrect. The first setup I get from one of these companies is usually fine. With some of these other companies, the higher level companies, the more expensive companies, I have to sometimes do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 revisions to get a predictable setup. That is unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. But that's my personal experience. You can talk to any other orthodontist personal experience. Now, as you rise in the hierarchy of some of these other more branded companies, you might get better technicians. So that's what I'm saying. Initially, when you're low level, you need to know how to control the setups. So anyways, we'll say you pick global, you submit your case, they're going to give you their version of a treatment plan. The branded version of that for Align Technology is, of course, called ClinCheck. This is not a ClinCheck for global because that's branded. So it's their treatment plan. You're going to review it, you're going to approve it, you're going to disapprove it, or you're going to modify it. Another version will come back. One of the things I like about these companies is it's freaking fast. You submit the case, usually within less than 1 business day, you already have the setup. You revise it, usually by the next morning, you already have a setup. It goes very, very, very fast. Once you approve it, it's going to go to your manufacturing partner that you've picked. Or if you have your own in-house lab and you've already finished the regulatory, you can finish that on your own. Your manufacturing partner will go ahead and print it, thermoform it, manufacture it, trim it, package it, and send it to you. Some of the manufacturing partners have ways that you can pay extra to have certain types of packaging or stuff like that. It comes with kits, but most don't. So most, it's just going to come in baggies. It's not going to be anything fancy. It's white label. It's unbranded. There's nothing fancy. That means on your end, what do you need in order to do this? You need to have informed consent. They're not giving you one. They're not a brand. You have to have your own. That's something that we have templates for in our store at StraightSmile Solutions. You need to have take-home instructions. Again, they're not giving that to you. You need to have it. These are convenience that come when you work with Invisalign or ClearCorrect. You're paying cheaper. You're not getting the convenience. So you need to know what you're doing. What else? Well, you need to know how to do everything. There's no training with this. They're not teaching you how to do attachments or having hands-on classes or anything like that. None of this comes with it. They're assuming if you're coming to white label, they already know what you're doing. So I don't recommend necessarily just starting with white label because they're not teaching you anything. You need to know how to put on attachments, how to do IPR. They're not going to teach you anything. There's not going to be any courses. There's not going to be any educational instruction. You are just getting a treatment plan and aligners in a bag. That's it. So you need to know what you're doing, when it's coming, how often to change trays. They're not going to tell you anything. They'll tell you where and when to do the IPR, they'll give you a little roadmap for it. But besides that, that's it. So like I said, bare bones, just aligners in a bag. So you need to pick your manufacturing partner that uses a thermoplastic material and a trim line that you like and has all the bells and whistles that you like. Different ones will have different types of packaging. For the most part, it's pretty generic. But you can see, you can still get phase 1, which is what? Like Invisalign first. You could still have molar movements. You can get bite jumps. You can get precision cuts. You can get bite tabs. You can get, what do they call it? Virtual power chain. You can get overcorrection aligners. You can get scallop trim. You can get straight trim, depending on who you're picking. So remember, there's no revisions, refinements, mid-course corrections for the most part, unless you're picking, some of them have started to come up with some. But for the most part, these are all separate moving parts. So you have a design company and you have a manufacturing company. You need to check what the warranty is with each of these companies. Most of the design companies will let you have free redesigns as long as it's towards the same treatment plan, okay? But the manufacturing, no, you're going to pay extra. So if you should not even consider start doing white label aligners unless you've already worked out all the kinks with the process. So you should know everything about tracking. All your cases should already run on time with their tracking. So you should know exactly what you're doing. If you have a high revision refinement mid-course rate, you should not get into white label aligners because you're going to make a mistake. You're not ready. You need to work out all the kinks in your process. Does your team know how to put on attachment perfectly? Can you do IPR accurately? Do your patients and does your team know how to explain tracking? Do you guys have an in-house virtual check-in process? All these things I think are really important. And no, they're not going to have a virtual check-in app. You need to use your own virtual check-in process, okay? So I'm being pretty realistic. I think it's wonderful. I know a lot of doctors that are doing on the vast majority of their cases with wet label and they're loving it, loving it, loving it. They also love that they don't have these gigantic lab bills on the front end. They're just super tiny lab bills. And it's some of the manufacturing companies on top of it, and you need to ask, are cool with you printing stuff in batches. So let's say you have a 20 upper and lower case and you're paying $20 per aligner. Lab fee, if I'm doing this right, is going to be about $800. Well, $800 is half or less than half of what you're paying with some of these other companies. That's great. How can we make the cash flow even better? We can tell said lab that we would like to print it in batches of 5 instead of batches of 20. Well, now your lab bill is $200 instead of $800 up front. So, because you're just getting 5 uppers and lowers. Hopefully I'm doing the math right on this. So you're going to pay maybe extra shipping and maybe a convenience fee on that, but you need to let them know that if you want to do that. But unless you've got a really compliant patient and you're feeling really good about your check-in processes, it's a great idea to manage cash flow, because now you can start cases for $200 down instead of $1,000 down or $1,500 down. If you can start aligner cases for, 100 down, 200 down, you know how much you'll be able to scale aligners in your practice because you have more cash flow and you have less risk. If somebody doesn't pay, you can cancel the treatment because you're not in the hole because you didn't just pay a gigantic lab fee, assuming you haven't done IPR and done something that's irreversible. So hopefully that's got your excitement sparked to start white label aligners. Again, reach out to me, take my quiz on my website, StraightSmileSolutions.com. And if you're looking for something, in between the white liner or the branded aligners, there's a lot of options there as well. Reach out to me. There's a bunch of really cool companies that are out there. I definitely recommend Straight Teeth Solutions as one. All right, thanks so much. Bye.